Hello, fellow fantasy sports fans. Welcome to MFSN, the Hub's fantasy football strategy show, Thursdays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. I'm Dr. Dan Ratner, and I'm here, as always, with Casey, Vlad to the Bone, Scheinfold, and Ross the Boss.
Welcome, everybody. Week 7 NFL football. We're talking fantasy strategy. We'll sprinkle in some waiver wire ideas if you want, and we'll take questions from the audience, trade ideas, people you should drop, people you should add. Any questions you have in fantasy football, we're here to help.
So Ross hit the nail on the head. We're here for you. So you guys bring up what you want. This is a strategy show. We can talk about trades. We can talk about waiver wire pickups. We can talk about how to position yourself for the playoffs. We can even talk keeper and dynasty leagues if you want. But let's start playoffs. But let's not start with Jim Mora. That's old news. But we're going to start with the big trades that happened in the NFL. I don't know how you guys probably did talk about this some on the waiver wire show, which I unfortunately didn't get to see yet. But which do you think is the biggest impact in the NFL? Actually, I mean, is it going to be Davante Adams to the Jets?
No, I think it's Amari Cooper.
You think it's Amari Cooper to the Bills? Okay, that's why I was asking. So, Casey, tell me why.
Well, because the Jets already had a decent receiving core, right? They had Garrett Wilson, who was at least the last few weeks finally getting the catches and yards he was supposed to. Alan Lazard already had 5 touchdowns. You know, Mike Williams is the odd man out, and he's been the odd man out. He's been in like Siberia for them. So he'll likely get traded. But the Bills have a great roster, but after they got rid of Diggs, they didn't have a number one wide receiver anywhere on it. And you saw that time and time again. Khalil Shakir is a good receiver, but he's not an alpha. He's not a demand the ball kind of guy. Amari Cooper has proven in Dallas and then in Cleveland when he had competent quarterbacking that this is a guy who can get you 7-8 catches and 100 yards and at least a touchdown every week. And Josh Allen hasn't had somebody to throw that to, and they've been losing or struggling because of it. And so he gives them something they desperately needed. Davante Adams is kind of a luxury piece. I don't know how. Certainly he makes them better, but I don't know how much he actually moves the needle.
Ross, what about you? What's your take on it?
I agree totally. I think Cooper is a big add-on for the Bills. You'll see that offense really do well. It will help everybody. Cook, Allen, everybody on that team, fantasy-wise, will go up just because Cooper's will be double-teamed, and that means the other guys will be single-teamed. And I agree with Casey. Davante Adams, I know he has the whole relationship with Rodgers. I get it. But I just think the Jets season is like over. I mean, I don't see them coming back making the
their
playoffs.
Next 6 games are pretty
guess.
light.
Okay, let's say they break even. Let's say do 3-3.
No, I think they'll go 4-2 or 5-1.
Okay, well,
but
I don't think.
But I'm saying I don't know if they would not have done that had they not traded for Davante Adams. I don't think he makes a difference between 2-4 and 4-2. I just don't. Whereas with Amari Cooper,
it's a miracle. When he was flying to New York, something happened with his hamstring where it magically, like, it's all better. It's
well,
like,
it was a very reparative flight.
I mean,
yeah.
Is this a TV movie or is this a real feature film where a guy goes on the plane with health issues and all of a sudden he comes off and he's 100% fine? Is there something?
I'm starting to think they may not be reporting exactly what's going on.
I'm shocked.
I'm wondering.
Like, people fake injuries in the NFL. I'm shocked.
It's incredible. So let me ask you this though, from a fantasy perspective, would you trade Davante Adams straight up for Amari Cooper? I know we're talking about the NFL impact, but what would you do in fantasy? Who do you want to have?
I'd rather have Amari Cooper because I don't think there's anybody in Buffalo to compete for targets. You know, Garrett Wilson still needs his 10 or 11 targets a game. You got Alan Lazard, who, you know, I was wrong. I was like, when he had his good first week, I'm like, yeah, that's just week 1. It won't last. Well, he's got 5 touchdowns. You can't stop giving him the ball. You know, and they have Breece Hall coming out of the backfield. So there's a lot to be spread around there. There's not a dominant run game in Buffalo, so they throw the ball more than the Jets already. And, you know, Khalil Shakir will get 6-7 targets. I don't know about
the thing is,
Amari Kincaid's been a disappointment. Dawson Knox is inconsistent.
I would say Amari Cooper instantly goes to high wide receiver 2 value right there in that spot. And Davante Adams, it's hard to say what he's going to do. I mean, I still like him, but How old is he now? He's 31 and a half or something
31.
like that.
Yeah.
At some point, the wheels are going to fall off. But, it's going to be really interesting to see how he does with Aaron Rodgers. We got Real-Time EV with us. He's saying that Davante Adams stayed at Rodgers' place. Real-Time EV is very hooked in. He knows these things. Then he said this, which I'm still trying to translate. Let's see. He said some, not me, but still.
Got some shrooms.
I don't know.
He stayed in one of those. He stayed in one of those healing yurts that Aaron Rodgers put himself in after his Achilles tear.
It was amazing how fast he healed. Now, you guys probably talked a lot about this on the Waiver Wire show about Sean Tucker. I do want to get your take on it because I didn't get to hear it directly. So what do you make of Sean Tucker's 14 carries, 136 yards, a touchdown, 3 catches for 56 yards and a touchdown?
Well, I think it's important to remember that at least half of it, if not more, came in garbage time, the last 10 minutes of the fourth quarter. And so that puts it into context because at that point, Tampa Bay was blowing out New Orleans. But, the coach went out. Was it Raheem Morris? Is that who the coach is? I forget who the coach is. But he said,
I believe so, but I'll check.
He said, we're going to run with the hot-handed running back. And what that means is I want to stay away from all three because you're going to pick wrong more than you're going to pick right. Who's going to get
Todd Bowles.
Oh,
yeah, right.
We're behind the times.
I didn't want to correct him.
But it just means I want to stay away from the Tampa Bay backfield even more now because who do you pick?
Well, Real-Time
I think Bucky will get his 15 handoffs a game. And I think when White's healthy, he'll be alternating with them. I don't think Tucker will be in play. I really don't.
See, I agree with Ross here. What I think about Tucker is it's great that he showed that talent. And what it shows me is that he's probably going to be some useful running back next year. But unless there's an injury, I don't see this sticking. I mean, yeah, he obviously looked great, but I'm not buying into Sean Tucker now. What I am liking to see is that he's got that level of talent. He had that level of talent in college. You look out for guys like that. And in fantasy football, you can find really good value in running backs like Sean Tucker eventually, but I just don't think this is the year.
Yeah.
Yeah. He went to Syracuse, right? College?
Syracuse. Yes.
Syracuse. Yeah.
I agree.
Jim Brown. I like Tampa Bay's team. I like Mayfield. I know Dan.
I love Baker.
It could be a trigger from Dan.
No, this is no trigger. I'm more of a Baker Mayfield fan than Browns fan.
I wasn't quite sure. Being a Browns fan, I just don't know if.
No, not a Browns fan. I'm a Baker Mayfield fan.
He's got to be in the MVP conversation right now.
I love it.
I would love that, by the way.
This shows you how much I'm not a Browns fan. I want Baker Mayfield to win the MVP so that the Browns can feel stupid about what they did.
Talking about MVP guys, Derrick Henry and how many touchdowns
that's what I told you. That guy should be the MVP. Yeah.
How many? Tell me, Casey, how many touchdowns does he have? He has like 20.
I think it's 145.
I mean, no. Tell me, does he have this season? He has like.
I'm looking it up. Hold on.
Look it up, Casey. All right, Albert Merriquin. Thanks for saying good afternoon. What were you saying, Ross?
He's leading the league in rushing, I know, by a lot.
Yes, he has 700 yards and 8 touchdowns rushing, 49 yards and 1 touchdown receiving.
The amazing thing is if you combine what he's rushing and what Lamar Jackson is doing, I mean, Baltimore, this is why I didn't like Zay Flowers, like going into the season. It's like there's no Baltimore receivers that I'm going to go in. They're always going to be running.
Yeah, but Mark, what's his face, finally had a good game.
Mark Andrews.
I know,
but can you really trust him with Likely out there? Not likely. I don't know. I mean, his value's gone way down. Real-Time EV says Tucker is a bruiser, great red zone. Well, he's got a great future. I just don't think this is the year, but let's see. Real-Time EV says hello to Albert, and then he says, sorry, my phone has its own mind. It's on shrooms, apparently.
Apparently.
Bring that up again.
It was in the same yurt.
Phone is on shrooms in the same yurt. What? So how about Spencer Rattler? Ross, you've been thinking about him for a while.
I love Spencer Rattler. So he plays tonight, plays for New Orleans, Oklahoma / South Carolina graduates, whatever he did. But he plays tonight. I like Spence. He looked good. I mean, he had some good stats. I know it was garbage time, Casey. I get it. I mean, but he threw for over 200 yards against
Tampa Bay. The whole game. It wasn't garbage time the whole time.
Yeah, I know. But
I mean, he was competent.
His first start, I thought he looked pretty good.
I wouldn't touch anybody on New Orleans with a 10-foot pole right
No.
now. Shaheed just went down and announced he's having meniscus surgery today
No.
and could be out for an extended time. So they're out.
He's hurt.
Olave,
Olave
they don't
has a
have Olave,
concussion.
they don't have Shaheed, they don't have
Kamara is going to be
Taysom
running
Hill,
like a madman.
and he's going to
you
get
guys gamble,
crushed.
just pick Kamara.
Denver's
Kamara's
run
gonna have a
defense
big
is
game.
very good.
Yeah.
It's just a bad game for fantasy. Honest to God. Like,
so and you're saying mostly this game, but it sounds like you're staying away from New Orleans for a long time.
yeah, Bub means
Alvin Kamara is going to have a big game. Okay.
Bub Means and Mason Tipton are your two top pass catchers.
Anybody named
hurt.
Bub,
Maybe
I
Foster
start.
Moreau.
What'd you say, Ross?
Anybody named Bub Means,
Bub.
I start immediately.
I mean,
And
It's-
Foster
it's a
Moreau
great name.
sounds more like he should be a Bond villain than a tight end in the
I
NFL.
love it.
Yeah. The
And
island
then
of
on
Dr.
the other
Moreau.
side, what Bo Nix isn't gonna be fantasy relevant. Maybe he'll run one in, but he never throws the ball more than 6 yards down the field. Javonte Williams has been horrible.
Actually, I thought Bo Nix has been pretty surprisingly valuable for fantasy purposes. I mean, I know it doesn't look great like when you're actually watching the game because he's throwing these short passes, but his numbers are adding up, especially because he runs.
Yeah, I
Let's
think
see.
tonight
We're talking
he'll have a
super
good
flex
game.
leagues.
I mean,
Well,
New
super
Orleans
flex,
has
yeah.
a horrible defense. New Orleans defense is not good. They're hurt. They need help big time. I see Bo Nix having over 200 yards passing, maybe 1 or 2 touchdowns. And he'll run. Both Rattler and him are going to run for their lives. And they'll
I
get
predict he'll
yards.
have at least 95 yards passing and at
That's a
least
big
1 yard running.
prediction. That's Will Levis territory, but yeah, you can
I
do
would
that.
I would put him around there too. Honestly, I don't think it's going to
Wow.
be a good night. I think it's going to be.
Well, we know what Thursday. I feel like. Meanwhile, I feel like the Broncos have played on Thursday night like 4 straight weeks. It feels like. I don't know why. All right, Jesse Winchester.
Broncos defense is not bad, guys. It's not.
No, it's not. It's good. Jesse Winchester has a question. He says, "Hey boys, I need advice. I have Godwin, Cup, London, Olave, Thomas, Addison at wide receiver, and Hall, Kyron, Chubb at running back. What's a good move to make? As I feel I have too much depth at wide receiver. I was going to say you've got some serious depth at wide receiver,
Well,
but yeah, go ahead.
See. Well, Cup, is he coming back this week? I think he might be.
He is practicing.
Olave's
KC.
still out.
Cup is practicing. He should be playing. Olave's not playing.
Right.
I mean, the question is, can you get
Cup is playing.
can you get some kind of discount or can you get Olave off your team without it being at a discount because of the injury? I mean, how serious is the injury? Let's first talk about that. Because when I'm eyeballing this, that's part of what I'm looking at is
Olave's got a concussion.
Okay,
1 week.
So okay, only 1 week.
Maybe. You don't know.
But even when he was playing, he's been disappointing. So I'd like to package Olave and Thomas for something better. Now the question is, what is that better?
Well, I think
could you get Jaden Reed for that? I would love that.
No, I don't think you want to get a wide receiver. I think he has Godwin, Cup, and Drake London. He doesn't.
So you're thinking of upgrading a running back?
I would go for somebody like Olave. His value is probably low, but if you did Olave and Thomas, I mean, look, you can get somebody who nobody realizes as good as they are and try to get like a Chuba Hubbard, who's been a top 5 running back right now in fantasy because Chubb, we don't know what we're going to get. The Browns are an absolute dumpster fire.
Chubb's still going to be good. He's a Hall of Famer.
It's going to be I agree, he's a Hall of Famer, but his first game back from a major knee surgery and he's
going to be a monster.
Okay,
He'll get 10 carries. He'll get 10 carries, guys. He's not going to get the ball that much the first.
He's not going to get that much. I just think he's going to look good. That's all I'm saying.
But I would I would want to either
on the soccer field. You don't see him scoring goals. You know what I mean?
No,
it's true, but I think Chubb, as the season goes on, is going to be a good value. So I wouldn't want to move him off of your team.
Who's your quarterback?
I agree. Jesse? I like Nick Chubb, but
so Jesse, who's your quarterback and your tight ends? Let's see about that so we can make a full assessment of this.
I would improve in running back. I like Walker for Seattle. I think he's tradable. I like Connor for Phoenix or for Arizona. I would trade one of your receivers for one of those guys.
But I mean, he's got Breece Hall, Kyron, and Chubb at running back anyway. I'm looking at a wide receiver. Based on what's listed here.
Here's what I would try to do. If I'm this team, I'm swinging for the fences. I'm offering Olave, Cup, and Thomas, or Olave, Cup, and Chubb for Derrick Henry.
I don't even think you need to offer that much. You can just do Cup and
Derrick
Chubb.
Henry, you need to do that much.
Really? Cup and Chubb is not enough for
more than a touchdown a game.
And over 100 yards a game.
All right, fine. Then why not? I mean, sure, do it. It's
Because
not that much
you'll
to pay.
still have Godwin, London, Addison.
And you know what else you get? You guys know what I like about this.
You get a waiver spot.
You get some roster spots, right?
Yeah.
So you get some roster spots.
And maybe
on top
he
of it.
has a wide receiver 3 that he would throw in that would be bench depth for you in the
Listen,
case of...
I'm up for it, but I think that Godwin's looking really great. The Tampa Bay looks fantastic. London's on the way up for sure, so I would not get rid of either of those. If you want to package, a Cup also I think is going to come back strong, but I would like to package Olave, Thomas, Addison, some combination of those, probably with Chubb for Derrick Henry. That's great.
I assume he's talking about Brian Thomas?
That's who I was assuming.
I thought Thurman Thomas.
I thought Thurman Thomas or Lane Thomas. Or Thomas Edison? No, it's definitely not Thomas Edison. All right, get back to us, Jesse. If you have updates about your roster, we can answer more about that. But I think we have either Derrick Henry or go for somebody like Jaden Reed type, I would say. All right, Dare to Discover says trade McBride and Chase Brown for Ayuk, Kincaid, and Pollard. So
who are your other wide receivers?
And who are your other running backs? I mean, I want to.
Well, I don't know if the way Chase Brown is running right now, I don't think Pollard is an upgrade. Especially
I don't think
with Tennessee's offense.
They're about even, Casey.
And Kincaid has been a ghost.
I think he's just saying not an upgrade, not that it's like a downgrade.
Yeah, it's not a huge upgrade.
I would probably, if it were me, I'd rather have McBride and Chase Brown.
Yeah, I mean, I like getting Ayuk in the deal. That's great. But Kincaid is a big disappointment. He's just like an average tight end in terms of how he's performing. Ross, what do you think about this? Which side of the deal would you like?
He also has Bijan Robinson and Kenneth Walker.
Okay, so that's pretty good.
So Pollard.
I would stay away from Ayuk. I think Ayuk after signing that contract, I just don't feel.
Yeah, a lot of times. Listen, McBride is the player that I want out of that list. That's the one. That's the one I want. So I
like McBride too. I think he has a lot more ceiling. I think his ceiling is a lot higher than anybody else's.
Yep. All right, Daniel Capps says, fellas, new to the show. Welcome, Daniel. It's good to see you here. Great name. Murray, my QB. But should I maybe stream Geno, Rodgers, or May this week? We do have to talk about May. I want to get your take on what he looked like to your guys. But should he sit Murray for either Geno, Rodgers, or May?
Tell me the matchups this week. Who's Arizona playing and who's
Chase, can you pull that up? Pull up the matchups.
Well, Geno is. I know Geno is playing Atlanta. I know Drake May is playing Jacksonville in London. And Arizona is playing the Chargers. So as much as I like Kyler Murray, I would not want to play him. I would rather, and then Rodgers, who are the Jets playing? Pittsburgh?
That's the question.
I think it's Pittsburgh, but let me check.
I mean, that's a very tough call. Ross, what's your take on
Pittsburgh?
I mean, Jacksonville's defense is just horrible, but it's
Jacksonville's the worst pass defense in the world.
Yeah, but it's when they play these London games, they're always like low-scoring, horrible managed games.
Except for last week when Caleb Williams threw 4 touchdowns against him.
Yeah, a good exception, but usually they're horrible games, sloppy, bad, not much offense. You know what I'm talking about, Casey.
Jacksonville is a disaster this year. They're just.
I would probably start Murray. I would start Murray.
Look, I would either go Drake May or Geno Smith.
And I'm with Ross. I would stick with Murray.
Geno Smith, the Seahawks throw more than anybody else in the NFL right now. He's got DK Metcalf and JSN and Lockett on the outside. It's going to be a high-scoring game with Atlanta.
But let me ask you this, Casey. Of those 4 quarterbacks, who is the most likely to explode in one given game?
Oh, Kyler Murray.
It's Kyler Murray.
But Kyler Murray does not have Marvin Harrison this week.
He hasn't even been.
He's going against the Chargers, who've been one of the best defenses. He's had sub 20 points, I think, 3 games in a row.
I understand why you're thinking about it for sure, but I just think if it's this close, why sit him? Play the best player. That's my take on it.
I'll just play Murray. I'm worried about May in London. We'll keep playing in London. I'm not playing. I know. Williams had a great
Daniel,
game
we didn't clear that up at all for you. I apologize.
Well, two out of the 3 of us said start Murray. So if you're, you're new to the show, but
I don't have a good feeling about the other ones.
I just think when it's this, it's kind of risky to sit the best player of the bunch. And that, like, if you lose because you started Geno Smith and you just had Murray, I just wouldn't overthink it. I just play the best player. All right, let's go with Nino Pena says, need to shoot for upside in my matchup this week. We got big play bonuses for quarterbacks. Should I keep Kyler versus the Chargers? I almost said the Clippers. Danny Dimes versus Philadelphia. Stafford versus Las Vegas. Andy Dalton versus Washington. I'm staying Kyler again.
Nope.
Case, what about you?
Kyler versus the Chargers. Stafford versus Andy Dalton versus Washington.
Give me Stafford.
If it's not Kyler, it's Andy Dalton.
But
the Red Rocket.
It's not a primetime game.
I don't want to pin hopes on that.
No, I know.
I like Stafford playing against the Washington defense. They had a bye week last week. Coop's coming back. I feel that Stafford's going for 330 yards, 2 touchdowns. You can quote me on that. If you're happy with those stats, I would start Stafford.
Stafford to me is the one to start, if not Kyler, but I would go Kyler on that.
That's fine.
Okay, Daniel Caps points out.
It's going to be a shootout with Washington and the Rams. It's going to be a high-scoring game.
Daniel Caps does point out only May's second start also, and then he said, thank you, fellas. It's okay. It's a hard question to answer. Thank you. We appreciate that. And then he said, about the last question, as a Raider fan, I play Stafford.
That's the way I feel about anybody playing the Giants, my friend.
All right, we got a bunch of comments coming in, so I want to say a couple things. One, if you want your comment to jump up to the top, there is something called Super Chat. It's actually kind of tipping us for the show. You do not have to do that, but it gets your thing right up to the top, so we'll go straight to it. So if for some reason it's getting lost in the shuffle and you really want your question answered, go ahead and do that. I'll pull up another question now. It's from Jay. Just got Davante and Nico for Amon-Ra, Nix, and Ridley. All right, let's evaluate this trade. What are we thinking?
If Nico comes back in the 4 weeks, you win that trade by a lot, because Calvin Ridley has been one of the most targeted wide receivers, but been thrown the least catchable balls in all of football, I think, when I was checking his stats. So Will Levis being his quarterback doesn't help. Davante is better than Ridley and Nix put together, and Nico was before his hamstring the best wide receiver in football. So if you can handle Nico being out for 3 more weeks after this week, if you can kind of stomach that and he's healthy for the playoffs, I love having Davante.
Yeah, I think it's a very good deal. But actually, you just made a key point, Casey. Like, some of this depends on the context of your team. If you're 2-4 right now and you made that deal, there's some real risk to it because you got to catch up ground fast. If you're 5-1, this is a great deal. You know, then you're waiting on Nico to come back. He's probably going to be back just fine in time to make a big difference. The one big loss, obviously, is Amon-Ra. So the other side of the trade was safe enough that it wasn't terrible, but I like the Davante Nico side of that trade.
Yeah.
All right, Nino Pena then adds, but also you guys think me trading away Mike Evans and Tank Dell for A.J. Brown was too much in a 10-man league? I don't think that was too much. I think that's good.
It depends who your other wide receivers are. I mean, look, in a 10-man league, you want as many studs as you can, and A.J. Brown is the best of those 3 players, and typically it's such a shallow league, you can find second and third receivers that are really good also. So, no, I don't think you overpaid for A.J. Brown. Mike Evans is just super consistent. Tank Dell is going without Nico Collins. So it might look like a bad trade for the next 3 or 4 weeks. But after that, come playoff time, you'd much rather have AJ Brown.
I mean, you guys know I like this kind of deal. It's a 2-for-1 deal. You got the best player in the deal and you get the roster spot. I think it's a no-brainer. I think that's a great deal. All right. Jean-Luc Picard, one of my favorite characters of all time. I can't believe he's here with us. It's an honor.
This is very exciting. I didn't know he was such a fantasy guy.
I did not expect to get a question from Picard. Trade Lamar, DK, Otten for Kyler, Bijan, and Kelsey.
No.
Ooh. I love
Who's
these trades.
Do you not have a running back? Because I'd rather have Lamar than Kyler. I'd rather have DK Metcalf than Travis Kelsey right now.
So it depends on it really depends on how bad you need the running back. Ross, what were you going to say?
I mean, Kelsey's not relevant anymore, guys, in fantasy.
He's going to be with all the injuries there.
Yeah, I mean, him and his girlfriend are just too much. I wouldn't do that deal. That's me.
Here's my hot take prediction for the next week before the trade deadline. Deontay Johnson to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, I could completely see that.
Carolina, he's not under contract after this year. They're in a complete rebuild. So why the heck not? And it gives Mahomes one of the best separators in football. Like, he gets open faster than almost any other receiver.
I like it. But let Jean-Luc get back to us about what your running back situation is. Okay, now Daniel Caps. We got a super chat going here, guys. Thank you, Daniel Caps. He says, need 2 running backs, PPR. Achane, Mason, Monty, Pollard, Ramondre. For flex, McBride, Douglas, or one of the other running backs. My tight end is Bowers. Okay, obviously you got a great tight end.
So
you got McBride and Bowers. Go ahead.
Well, you can't. Ramondre still isn't practicing, so the chances of him playing are pretty low right now. PPR of those, I would want, if Achane is playing, I want Achane.
You have to play Achane.
And probably, I just said I don't like Pollard, but I might take him there because Monty's not guaranteed to get a full rep, and Mason is going against the Chiefs.
I think Pollard's their number 1 running back now in Tennessee.
Yeah, and it's a PPR, and he's a pass catching running back. So I'd go Achane and Pollard. Flex, I really like Demario Douglas. I mean, he's the number 1 in New England, but McBride right now is the number 1 in Arizona. I don't think you can go wrong with either of them.
I play McBride at flex there.
I like Douglas,
especially with Harrison out.
I like the rookie Douglas. He looked good last week, had 94 yards, touchdown. I think he's May's main target right now. I would take Douglas as the flex.
Interesting. All right. Well, I'm McBride, so I'm in the minority there, but obviously Douglas is a good play as well. In terms of one of the other running backs, I think we're agreeing that it's McBride or Douglas over those running backs. And Pollard is, his value has clearly gone up. Spears just hasn't really looked that good.
Nope.
And, Pollard is the guy there. All right. Thank you, Daniel Caps. Let us know if we answered your question to your full satisfaction. All right. Carter Malema says, I'm trying to take a gamble on Davante right now. I'm trying to trade Nico Collins and Mike Evans for Davante Adams and Deontay Johnson. What are your thoughts on the trade? Don't do it. That's my
if you think you can make the playoffs without making that trade, you don't make that trade, because the ultimate goal is to have the strongest team going into the playoffs. And when Nico Collins comes back, he and Mike Evans are much better than Davante Adams and Deontay Johnson. Not that they're not dynamic, but Nico was the best wide receiver in football, and Mike Evans is Mr. 1,000 yards touchdown machine.
I mean, look, you could argue that Mike Evans is better than Davante Adams rest of the season very easily.
It's close, yeah.
It's close at the very least.
But
so
if you can stomach the next 4 weeks, if you're 4-2 or 5-1 or even 3-3, and you think you can go 2-2 for the next 4 weeks, I would much rather
hold off
Nico
of it.
Collins.
If you're like 1-5, maybe you do that.
Yeah,
but
then you need to catch up.
But even so,
I'd ask
why
for
not
more.
just keep Mike Evans, deal Nico Collins for something else, but keep the value that you already have. That's my take on it. All right. Nino Pena says, went for the 3-headed monster. So it's got me having CD, AJ, Cup, then BTJ and Demario Douglas on the bench.
That's a great wide receiving core. So I see why you did it.
I mean, that's fantastic. But and I wonder, did Nino say what kind of league he's in? Was it? It was
that was the
10-man league.
10-man league. Yeah,
right.
10-man league.
But this is all the more reason. Go ahead, Ross. Sorry.
No, I like what he did with his receiving core. I think he can improve maybe on other positions, quarterback, maybe tight end. But I mean, look what's going on quarterback wise. I mean, Casey and I were talking about it. Jalen Daniels of Washington. I mean, he's a top 5 fantasy quarterback right now. And and you could have drafted him in the 12th or 13th round in some of these leagues. I mean, look what's going on. Mahomes is not a good fantasy quarterback anymore. His days are over with.
It's
done.
Yeah, I mean, he's a back end QB1 now.
I mean, he really is
crazy.
And Patrick Mahomes is a QB2. He's a super flex quarterback.
Jalen Hurts is also. Jalen Hurts is somebody I don't want as my quarterback anymore. I did beginning of the season.
Yeah, but he still has the upside. I don't think the Chiefs. I don't think Mahomes has the upside.
I mean, Hurts has been playing without his main guys, and he's a running quarterback, and he's also younger. But Mahomes is truly.
You want to play the Jalen Daniels game? I played with Casey, and you can tell me who you want. Who rather have Jalen Daniels or Jalen Hurts?
At this point, actually, Daniels.
Nobody's arguing that. Ross.
Okay, I gotta say
You're saying Patrick Mahomes versus Jalen Hurts, and I'd rather have Jalen Hurts.
By the way, I just want to say, Nino, this
Daniel.
is all the more reason your AJ Brown deal was good. You're in a 10-team league, and I'm looking at your wide receivers. This shows that you upgraded a spot, and that's exactly what you need to do. Now, he did say, need that Deontay to the Chiefs. I think that'll be good for Deontay. It'll certainly be good for Mahomes. Well, who knows? Maybe Mahomes' days are just over that way. He's still a good quarterback in the NFL, but
Dr.
not
Dan,
the
I
10.
mean, would you rather start Mayfield over Hurts or Mahomes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you pretty much have to at this point. Like,
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just telling you guys, anybody who said like, oh, I got to draft Mahomes or Hurts, like, I need
no, but here's a
top-tier
different question.
quarterback.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
are
here's a
there
different question.
11 quarterbacks who you would start over Jalen Hurts right now? And if
There are
not,
not.
he's a QB1.
No, they're not. And also, would you trade? I would probably start Mayfield over Hurts this week, but would you trade Jalen Hurts for Baker Mayfield?
No.
I don't think I would.
Would I
The
press
upside is
would I
just
press
bigger.
that accept button? I don't
You would
know.
pre- you-
I'd be tempted. I might do it. I might do
Yeah.
it just to spite all you guys.
I love Baker, but I would not pull that deal. Meanwhile, guess who my two dynasty quarterbacks are in one of my leagues?
Are they
Baker
really?
Mayfield.
Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. No,
There you go.
yeah, I
Jean-Luc-
tried to get Baker.
Jean-Luc
Jean-Luc
told
got
us.
back to us. All right, make it so. I'm loaded on wide receivers. I have Debo, A.J. Brown, McLaurin, Deontay Johnson. My only running backs are Montgomery and Singletary.
So instead, you would have Montgomery and Bijan in that trade, right? Because that was the Bijan
Right.
and Kyler.
Let's pull
Yeah,
that
then
up.
I would make that trade.
I think you do want to make that trade.
Bijan.
Yeah.
Even
I'm
though
not a
he's up
huge
for
fan
quarterback.
of going from Lamar Jackson down to Kyler, but
But it's
get
not that big to get Bijan. And also, listen, Kelsey, he still has a lot of upside for a tight end.
yeah,
I think that trade's good for you, Jean-Luc. I say go for it. Ross, you in? All three of us?
Again, Bijan has not performed well this year. He has like 400 yards rushing this year. It's not that great. I'm very concerned about Bijan.
yeah, he's not.
Algiers has been almost sharing the handoffs with him this year. I'm not a huge Bijan fan. I'm really not, especially fantasy wise. I think his value is way overrated, but that's me.
Guess who agrees with you? Uncle Ted is here. Bijan is overrated.
Yes,
Good to see you, Uncle Ted.
Always shy about his opinions.
Yeah, that's right.
Uncle Ted's the best.
He is the best, and just
Well,
narrowly
second
lost.
best.
He narrowly lost in baseball, but he had a great run. Well
He
done.
had a great
Uncle Ted.
year.
But I agree with both of you. Bijan, I actually felt he was overrated even last year. I had a chance to trade Bijan
last year,
to Brees Hall.
Everybody could blame it on Arthur Smith. Now you can't blame it on Arthur Smith.
That's
anymore.
right. Eventually, it just starts to show through. Uncle Ted's laughing about second best. All right, Jean-Luc Picard says, thank you, subscribed and like. That's awesome, Jean-Luc. Thank you so much. Please do continue to join us. We have shows on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific.
If we can shoot from the USS Enterprise, let us know.
That's right. Any Star Trek references we're up for. All right, let's see. Who do we miss? Daniel Cap says, thanks, fellas. You are most welcome. I hope that we helped. I'm trying to remember what it was. What did we even answer on? This was about...
That was the H.N. Mason Pollard.
Oh, right. Okay. And then he says, I'm just staying afloat waiting for Puka. When is Puka
I
coming
hear
back?
you. Hopefully in a few weeks.
Mhm.
2 weeks.
Well,
It's
2
funny.
weeks.
The Rams practice.
So,
The Rams
if you're
practice
the
about.
Rams, let me ask you a question. If you're the Rams and you're not making the playoffs this year, you're not a team that's built to compete long term either. Do you trade
Yeah.
Cooper Kupp right now?
I think you have to. The actual NFL team, the Rams, you're talking
Yeah.
about. Like, what do they
Wouldn't
do?
you trade, like, go to the Chiefs and say, give me a second round pick for Cooper Kupp? Or go to any team that's wide receiver needy.
It's funny, guys. I was driving yesterday. I was driving on near my house on Canoga, and if you drive down Canoga, you hit the Rams practice field, and you can kind of look through. And I saw Puka and Kupp both like running on the sidelines.
Wow.
I was driving by.
That is
the
amazing.
practice. Yeah,
But-
it's pretty cool.
That is cool. But, given that they have Puka, that's all the more reason, I think, to deal Cup. But
and Tutu Atwell's
I
been good,
think
and Jordan
there's
Whittington's
been no
been good.
talk
And
about trading Kupp in LA. There's been nothing, zero talk about it.
yeah.
But why wouldn't you?
Well,
I'm not
listen, you
disagreeing.
got to make a decision about when are you going to blow things up? When are you going to start to retool or rebuild? And maybe they just feel like they want to give it one more year next year, but it's They're playing with fire, I think. All right, Carter Malema says, just a follow-up to my previous question for more insight, the Nico Evans for Deontay and Davante trade.
My wide receivers.
My wide receivers right now are Mike Evans,
Okay.
Nico Collins,
T. Higgins, Devontae Smith.
So you would still have Mike Evans, T. Higgins, and Devonta Smith until Nico came back. I'm sticking with that.
I would just wait.
I would ride that out because Mike Evans can do what Devontae does, and Devonta Smith can do whatever Deontay Johnson does.
I mean, again, the main thing is like, are you 1-5 somehow? Like with that team, probably not. So if you're in the playoff contention, Nico, you want to hold on to.
You want Nico because of playoffs. You're 100% right. Don't get rid of him because he's hurt unless you really, really need to, but don't.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Okay. Uncle Ted has a question. Pop Douglas or Bub Means?
I would
rather have Demario Douglas right now.
I love Bub. I say Bub just because I love the name Bub.
He just wants to say Bub.
And him and Rattler were on the practice squad together.
Well,
so
here's the thing. I read this.
There's no synergy, Casey, with him and Rattler.
I understand that, but I read this morning in one of somebody who does a lot more statistical research than I do.
It's not that Andrew guy. There's this guy named Andrew that lives in DC.
No, I wouldn't touch that stuff. No, okay, Bub Means like that guy. Okay. Bub Means is known as somebody who's good against a zone defense, not a good separator against man defense. Last week, Tampa Bay runs as much, if not more, zone than everybody else, and Denver runs more man than anybody else. And so, to expect him to be just as dynamic looking as he was last week, I'm going below it. Whereas Jacksonville has the worst pass defense in football, and Demario Douglas is the number one wide receiver in New England, and they've shown they're willing to just let Drake May throw the football, as you saw in the game last week. So I'd rather have Demario Douglas.
This is starting to feel like, Casey,
I agree with Casey.
You're spending a lot of time thinking about Jacksonville.
Casey, if you were a lawyer, that was the perfect way to put everything down down to the audience. But
his name is Bub, and that's enough for Ross.
That's enough for Ross. I mean, Ross likes that sort of thing.
Bub is just to be
this is one of the things I love about you, Ross, though. You know, it's like you'll do things like, who should you start? Well, this guy's starting in the Thursday game, and I want to sit down and watch it. And he just does it. I love that about you. You just like, you're not so worried about it. Casey and I we're a different kind of Jew. We're like, we'll overanalyze and worry about
overanalyze, overcritical,
and then apologize even if we're right.
And then
and I'm sorry about that.
Ilya De La Cruz is a big bust, and he steals 60 bases, and blah blah blah.
Okay.
All right. Conscious Machine 413 says, "Amen. 3-3, third in total points. Not trading Nico. I think if you are in contention, you do not trade Nico.
3-3, you're still in the playoff hunt. You're still okay.
Yeah, I mean, also you can wait 2 games and then see where you're at. If you go to 3-5, then maybe, but probably not because it's gonna be close to getting back. Okay, he says I have Gibbs. Should I offer Walker for Monty straight up?
I wouldn't
do that.
No, because look, you don't want both parts of the two-headed monster backfield because chances are one of them is going to have a really good game and the other one's going to be complimentary. Don't get me wrong. Monty is better than Kenneth Walker right now, but I'd rather have the chance to have 2 teams where the running back gets massive points. I don't know how many times Jahmyr Gibbs and Monty have both finished in the top 5 or 10 in running.
Yeah,
back.
I mean, listen,
I could be wrong. I'm speaking just
but when you're bringing in one committee back for another, but you're matching it up on one team. Listen, when it's late in the playoffs or heading to the playoffs, and you want your handcuff, maybe that's the time to do it.
But Walker is the alpha running back in Seattle's backfield. Charbonnet hasn't been getting a lot of work.
No, and it's always been the case. I keep Walker in that. Ross, do you agree?
I think Walker has a lot more upside, 100%.
Yeah. Okay. Uncle Ted that says Sean Tucker or Kamani Vidal. Gus the Bus on the IR. So
yeah, I would go with Vidal.
It's got to be Vidal.
I think just because of the depth, he's the number 2, whereas Sean Tucker is one of 3.
Yeah, I mean,
Vidal was all love in the preseason. Everybody was talking about him as a sleeper, so he finally got a chance, and he took
including Uncle Ted, as I recall, but I'm not sure.
No, was the guy. That was the guy that was at your wedding that you carried out.
Oh, well, Chris Atwater was all over Kamani Vidal, but there were other people too. Yeah. I don't think it was Uncle Ted actually.
It was.
No, it was an Uncle Ted.
It's Grossman.
All right,
Grossman.
Freezy Fantasy says 10-man PPR, trade Bijan Robinson and DK for Jamar Chase and James Conner.
Yes.
I
Yes.
think that's
Press
definitely
accept.
it.
Yeah, absolutely.
My other
Accept
running
it.
backs, except my other running backs are Derrick Henry, who we love, Brian Robinson, Chase Brown, and Nick Chubb.
Oh, absolutely.
Is
We've already
even
said
more so.
Bijan has been overrated this year. James Conner's being able to do what he does. And
You're
Jamar
getting an
Chase,
upgrade. You're getting an upgrade at both positions.
As much as DK Metcalf has been one of the most
Yep.
targeted wide receivers in football, I'd still rather have Jamar Chase.
Casey, quick question. Next year's draft, number 1 pick, Derrick Henry, yes or no?
No.
I mean,
Dr.
he's going to be a 31-year-old running
He's
back.
going to be 31, and if it's
Here's
a
the thing,
PPR
Ross.
league, he still doesn't catch the ball.
He's not going to be the number 1 pick. and
Redraft
yet
league. I'm not talking about dynasty. I'm talking
I know, but even so, he's not going to be the number 1 pick. He will be a maybe back end first round pick. And guess what? He's going to perform just
like
the same as he's
number
doing
1
now.
pick. Yeah.
Okay.
We're not saying he shouldn't be. We're saying he
right.
won't be.
We're just saying he won't be. It's a prediction, but we're with you on whether maybe he should be in the discussion. Okay, Conscious Machine says Sutton tonight. Down Nico and maybe MHJ.
You are down MHJ, by the way. But although he practiced with the non-contact jersey today, from what I saw, so maybe he's trending. No, Sutton is not a smart play. Bo Nix, as much as my fellow co-hosts here are impressed with his fantasy relevance,
I wouldn't
he does
say
not throw the ball downfield. And Sutton's going to be covered. He's going to be shadowed by Marshawn Lattimore, who asked Mike Evans about Marshawn Lattimore, how well that goes when he's shadowed by him.
I think Lattimore's hurt. Casey, I think Lattimore's hurt. You may want to check.
If he's hurt, that's different. But if he's not hurt, I'd rather have.
Listen, even if he is hurt, I've never been big into Courtland.
I'd rather have Valet or whatever his name is on Denver as the. I mean, pick him up and throw him out there because he catches 7 targets every time they put him on the field.
We got a question about MHJ. We were just confirming he is out. That is correct.
Well, he practiced today with a non-contact jersey, and it's rare they let somebody come back after just a week. So
plus, I mean, don't you think they're going to be careful with him, especially?
You would think, because they don't have much to play for. Why would you hurt?
I think he's on the doubtful side.
He's not playing this. He's not playing this week. You guys, there's no way.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, Conscious Machine says 3-3, and I'm a 3 seed, tough, smart league. Yeah, it's always fun to play in those kinds of leagues. You got to really gut it out. All right. I appreciate the Monty advice. The Lions running backs just seem to guarantee 30 total points. If one gets hurt, the other is a boom. I think that's true, but don't you think you can get Monty for cheaper than Walker?
No.
Really?
No.
He had 2 touchdowns last week, didn't he? I mean, the guy's on fire, and they're playing Minnesota this week. That's gonna be a good game.
I think Monty's the kind of guy you can sneak in there with a nice 2-for-1 deal. I think you can. I got to think about
7. He's the number 7 ranked running back so far this year.
Right.
And Kenneth Walker is behind James.
Well, let me
Conner
ask you this: would you trade Bijan Robinson for Monty?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. In redraft, I suppose so. Uncle Ted points out Tucker 193 total yards is nuts.
I know.
True.
Tucker's a flash in the pan. He's not going to be doing that in Tampa Bay every week. He got the
well, maybe not this year, but again, don't forget about him next year.
Casey Seinfeld, unbelievable. Seinfeld.
Scheinvold. Oh my God!
During garbage time, he
don't get me wrong. He played some during regular time, but like 75 to 100 of his yards came in the fourth quarter when
Bucky Irving is the future at running back in Tampa Bay.
And Rachaad White is at least the 3rd down back.
Rachaad White will be the running back coach at Arizona State. And there you go.
Will that be next year or this year? Guys, by the way, we've got comments running in. So again, if you want to bump yours up to the top, you can always do super chat. We're ready to take your comments at any time. Freezy Fantasy says, for my trade, would you rather trade away DK or Jaden Reed?
Ooh, wow. I'm keeping Jaden Reed.
I don't know.
Tough.
That's tough.
I'm keeping Jaden Reed.
Whichever one, you just got to accept that there's going to be some weeks you regret it.
Yep. But you also are going to get to keep somebody really good one way or another. So you got
I love Jaden Reed. I think he's a top for sure, top tier wide receiver.
I lean towards keeping Jaden Reed on that just because of the offense. Okay. I picked up Davis over Tucker. My opponent has Singletary and Etienne and no one else. If I didn't know my opponents,
is he even relevant anymore? Is Etienne?
Yeah, he's still considered the number 1 because Tank Bigsby didn't exactly run away with it. And then Deontay Foreman got a lot of run.
Yeah,
he did.
So
But
he's saying
let
though
me
that
ask
he.
Casey, quick question: if you
Yeah.
have ATM on your team,
Yes.
are you starting him? Are you going to play him as the running back on your team, on your
I
fantasy
think he's
team?
still an RB2 flex.
Ooh.
I think he's still in that conversation.
He's so not relevant to me. Doesn't score, doesn't play half the game. I mean, the guy is just a wreck.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Now but what he's saying, and I love to see this kind of strategy. He picked up Davis. I assume we're talking about Ray Davis. He
Ray
picked him.
Davis, yep.
He picked him up to keep him away from his opponent. He said he would drop Davis today and grab Tucker, and then he can't play Tucker. So that's fantastic. Play defense when you.
Yeah, but if you're
Yeah.
dropping Davis, he'll pick up Davis unless it means because he'll be
Well,
on the
drop him
waivers. He
again.
won't be able to get him
You
because
gotta-
Ray Davis was awesome last week for Buffalo.
No,
Let's
if you're
not forget
just
that.
trying to keep him away
love
from him,
that
I
guy.
think you got to cut him on Friday. It depends on your league settings.
Yeah, because usually it's 48
just
hours.
check when he's going to
Yeah.
clear waivers.
Drop ATM, just drop him. Get rid of him.
I love that. That's another thing I love about Ross. He's like once a player's crossed him like Etienne has, it's over.
Forget it.
All right.
I didn't draft him in any. I did not draft him. I don't like ATM as a fantasy player, and I just see him just burning you every week. And I don't know how much longer you guys can take this with this guy.
Yep, it's pretty brutal. Okay, damn, I may have to play Dobbs and Watson. Already starting Love. Well, starting Love is
That's
a
not
good
the
thing.
worst thing ever. I mean, I'd rather have Dobbs than Watson just because he gets more targets.
Yep.
Watson is the big play threat though, so you could get 3 and 110 with a touchdown out of him.
Yeah, the Alec
We
Pearson.
we call that stacking in the business, right, Case?
That's
We
right.
do.
Love stacks. Walker still has a bye in week 10.
Yep.
So I guess that's the other factor. Listen, it's not at all ridiculous what you're considering. I just think we're leaning towards Walker as more upside. And, it's early to worry about the buys that much, I think. I think you want to keep the player you want. All right.
Yep.
MMA Outlawed says, help. Do I trade Higgins for Pollard? I think there's some context to it. Let's see the team context. I'd have DK, Downs, and Waddle.
Ooh, no, I'm
And
not
wide
making that
receiver.
trade then because Waddle, as we've seen, without Tua,
Do the
is
impression.
terrible. If
Do the Waddle.
you're convinced
Do the
Tua's
Waddle.
coming back in 2 weeks,
There it is.
it's definitely worth it. But Josh Downs, look, Anthony Richardson can find Alec Pierce 3 times for big plays and nobody else on the field. So I'm worried about him. If Joe Flacco was the quarterback, I love Downs. I don't love him as much with I just said his name and now
Richardson.
Sorry. But Waddle, I would rather try to trade Waddle for Pollard, to be honest.
Let's talk about
because
Richardson
T.
and
Higgins-
Flacco.
Joe Burrow can keep 2 wide receivers relevant. We've seen that all the time.
What'd you say, Ross?
I don't know why Indy just says, we're going to start Flacco. We have a better chance to win. I really think
What's
they do.
Indy-
What I
Or
really
what's-
don't understand is why didn't the Browns say that?
Because
Well,
you
we
guys
know
have
why.
bad management.
We know why. Well, they actually have their banishment isn't the problem. I think it was probably more the owner and the Watson situation.
Yeah, you and I should have really bought the team way back then, and we could have took care of
When
the
we had the
situation.
chance, we were offered it for $460, but we
So-
just gave it to Jim Ginocchio instead.
I just looked at the standings to see why the Chiefs were, because I was thinking maybe the Colts were out of playoff contention. That's why they were starting Richardson. They're 3-3, so they're not out of it. So I was looking at the point differentials. The Cowboys are minus 42 in points. The Panthers are minus 100. But if you look at the NFC North, Minnesota plus 63, Detroit plus 60, Green Bay plus 41, Chicago plus 47. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
the
how
NFL
good
is
the
really
the
it's-
NFC North is.
It's
But, sorry.
been a weird year. I
Love
mean, certain teams have been, it's just been strange. We're gonna wrap up very shortly, but Conscious Machine says I have Davis because I like him.
Oh,
just
wait.
saying. What?
I have Conscious Machine. If you have a crappy second tight end or somebody on your roster and you want to drop somebody to pick up Tucker, drop them. Like keep the extra
And
running
you know
backs
what?
just
Listen.
for this week, because you can always get a tight end off the waiver wire next week. Like if you have
You
somebody
also
else,
you also can cut. I mean, if it's a kicker league, cut your kicker, save that spot, and then play defense however you want, and then just pick up a kicker.
yeah, gamesmanship is
Or-
the best part of
Or
strategy.
defense.
If you can win this week by dropping somebody who you can replace on the waiver wire next week and then pick up the running back, block him from getting them, do it in a heartbeat.
Do it for
Like-
sure.
yeah.
All right. Conscious Machine says I drafted Mason 14th round. Thank God. Very, very Very smart. Any news in San Francisco, guys? You have any reports on this? What's the latest?
Yeah. McCaffrey's not coming back. He's in.
He's not coming back at all.
It's the first time ever a first-round draft pick, a first pick at the draft, actually will not play one play during the season. So all you losers out there didn't take my advice and told I told you not to take him. All you losers that took him as your first pick, I hope you're suffering.
If I were you, Conscious Machine 413, Mason is dealing with the shoulder issue. If you have the spot for it, I'd pick up Isaac Guerrero if he's anywhere on your waiver wire, because that's who's going to be the primary beneficiary if Mason's limited. So
yeah,
Mason's questionable.
All right, 2 more questions coming in. George Play 01 says, "Hey guys, need help to start 2 from this wide receiver room, non-PPR. Amari Cooper, Jackson Smith and Najigba, Waddle, Brian Thomas, Jameson Williams, Josh Downs, or Juju." Well, Amari Cooper is the obvious start for me.
Amari Cooper's a no-brainer. I'm actually going to say something I never thought I would. Juju Smith-Schuster would be my second one.
Wow.
Wait, I'm hearing things. You said Juju Smith-Schuster?
Yeah, the guy who hasn't been relevant in 6 or 7 years. But that's where Patrick Mahomes is a genius. Even though he might not be a good fantasy quarterback, he can make a receiver fantasy relevant. And you saw what he did 2 weeks ago when he had Juju out there. Jameson Williams is going against, is it Detroit's going against
big
Houston?
Play guy, right? Big play.
Yeah, but Case, I think
Detroit
you're
playing? Minnesota. So that's a really tough defense. And by the way, they've owned Jared Goff over the years. Josh Downs, I told you my concerns about. Brian Thomas might be an interesting play because who knows what it's going to look like in London. And you get to watch the early game with some interest. That's something Ross always likes to do. If there's a game on by itself, he wants to have a player in it so that he can cheer. Waddle's a waste. Night. JSN is the third option.
Waddle, until Tua comes back, Waddle and Hill mean nothing to me. Actually, they really don't.
They don't have any kind of quarterback play to help.
I think I can go out there and do better.
And especially Waddle, like Hill could break something open with almost anybody. But look, Hill's probably like the 22nd best wide receiver play right now. That's pretty bad for him.
A first-round draft pick
and Waddle is probably Waddle's probably like 38th. So that's why Juju sneaks in here. I got to agree with it. It's the role. All right, let's finish up on these last couple questions. Whittington, Justice, Algier, Davis.
That's who your bench is. I'm assuming that's who he's talking about as bench. You can drop Whittington with your other wide receivers.
Yep.
Yeah, Whittington's.
I like Whittington, but you can drop him.
I agree.
If it's Dynasty League, no, but otherwise, yeah.
All right, Crooner's Live says I traded Garrett for DK. I like that trade. Very good trade. Should I start Pollard or T. Higgins at flex?
I would start
T.
Higgins. They're going against Cleveland right now, as we've talked about. They're a dumpster fire. I don't know who's starting for.
They are a dumpster fire. I love that phrase.
Who's Tennessee going against this week?
Not the Browns. That's what you need to know. While you're looking at that, we'll get back to that. We'll finish up on this. Conscious Machine says, including Sutton, Dobbs, and Watson, it's a 2 flex. Kittle is my only tight end.
Great.
That's great for tight end, but for flex,
Tennessee's at Buffalo. Yeah, I don't want.
No, make the play against the Browns. All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead, Case.
Okay, no, I was just looking at that comment.
All right, Titans play Buffalo, says Crooner. Yep. Okay, so guys, it has been great being here with you. Next week we've got Waiver Wire with Casey and Ross. That's Tuesdays, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, and then we're back here on Thursdays for our strategy show. That's also 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Guys, it has been great chatting with you guys, getting your questions. One last one getting in here. Crooner's Live says, and Tyjae's hurt. That's true.
Yeah, but it's also a game script question for me.
It's a game script question, and I want a piece against the Browns for sure. All right, guys, it's been a pleasure. Casey, Ross, thanks for joining us here. Conscious Machines says, appreciate the insight. Great to have you guys here. We've got a lot of new viewers, and it's great. Subscribe, click like. We love having you here, and we'll see you next week.